creator and founder of the Everlasting Love Club, and I'm here with Hump Day Relation Tip number 18, which is got relationship upper limit problems, also known as why things go bad when things are going great. So last week in my Hump Day Relation Tip, I was asked to go into a little bit more detail about upper limit problems, what they are, what they do, how you can recognize them, how to address them. So I'm going to do that today. Shout out to Mitchell. But this is something that is really relevant to everyone, whether or not you know about it. So, so I'm going to start with kind of painting a picture for you. So picture this. You are in a relatively new relationship and things are really going great. You really like this new person. You seem to really get each other. You're really clicking. You've been on a bunch of dates. You are compatible in all the different ways that you want to be compatible with someone. And then you start to get ready to take it to the next level. So maybe you just say like, oh, hey, we're official. we're boyfriend, girlfriend, we're going steady, whatever you call it. And or maybe you are moving in together, or maybe you got engaged, or maybe you are buying your first house together, which is what my husband and I did before we got married. We actually bought a house together. So so we started out in a different kind of place with our up-leveling in our relationship than the kind of traditional path. So very often what happens is you're in that new thing, new things have come up, you're up-leveling in your relationship, and then all of a sudden, boom, like, shit starts to get bad. Like, you get really sick, or you start picking fights, and you're like, why am I picking fights with this person? Or, any number of things happen, and you're like, I don't understand, things were going so well. I've heard about this law of attraction stuff, and I felt like things were, my mindset was good, and so why are all of these shitty things happening in my life now? And what's happening is totally normal, and it's called an upper limit problem. And that was a phrase that was coined by Gay Hendricks, who wrote a book that I make all of my clients read right off the bat. It is the #1 book that I send to them when we first start a long-term coaching program. It's their book of the month, and it's called The Big Leap. And he goes obviously into great detail on this, and I won't be able to do that live today, but I wanted to just give you an idea of what upper limit problems are, why we have them, when they show up, what do they look like, how do they show up, and what we can do about them. So I don't usually use a lot of notes, but today I have some notes just so I can make sure to give you all of the information that I think will be useful for you in a Hump Day Relation Tip format. So feel free also, if you're here live, to throw some questions in the comments, and if I have time, I will get to those today, and if not, I will get to them later. So, so anyhow, upper limit problems are, like I just said, they're basically what happens is we all are existing in a zone. So our zones are anywhere from the zone of incompetence, down here, and where we're kind of just a ne'er-do-well, things just kind of don't happen the way that we want them to, or the way we envisioned our life going, or whatever. And then there's competence, where things are pretty okay, but not like amazing and not terrible. And then there's the zone of excellence, which is just what it sounds like. It's when things are pretty great. Generally speaking, we're things are much more good than they are not good, and but things are not like outstanding. We're not necessarily like at our absolute best all the time. And then there's the zone of genius, which is where you are most of the vast majority of the time living your purpose. You're you're being the best partner, best friend, best family member that you're capable of being. So we all live in those different zones in the different areas of our life, in our career, in our health, in our relationships, and that's where we are most comfortable. That's where we feel safe. Even if we're living in the zone of incompetence most of the time, that still is our safety. That's kind of like, I'm used to this. This is what feels okay to me. So that's the idea of zones. And when we start to up-level or move to a new place of being in one of those areas of our life, we come up against upper limit problems, and that's when things start to go off the rails. It's kind of a way of self-sabotage. The way that Gay Hendricks writes about it is we have an inner thermostat, just like a setting on, for your air conditioning or whatever. So it's an inner thermostat that determines the amount of love and success that we allow ourselves. So when we exceed our setting, we tend to sabotage ourselves so that we can return to the old familiar zone where we feel secure. And that thermostat actually is set in early childhood before we're able to really even realize that that's what's happening. So we usually have these upper limit problems come up when we come up against one of those pre-programmed barriers that we've accepted as truth in some way. And I don't want to get into great detail on each of the different barriers because it would start to take hours and hours to discuss this whole thing. But essentially, there's these four major barriers. The first one is feeling fundamentally flawed. And I think we all have a little bit of that in us, that feeling that I just basically don't deserve this love, this success, this, whatever it is. A feeling of disloyalty and abandonment is the second one. And that's, we feel like if there's anything that's going well in our life, that we are somehow being disloyal to our roots or to our families, or that we will be abandoned by them if we go beyond a certain level of acceptable success in any of those areas. And then the third one is believing that more success actually makes you a burden. And so that can be, if you have, it's kind of that idea of like mo money, mo problems. So yeah, that's that one. And then number 4 is the crime of outshining, which if you have siblings, you probably have some of this going on. It's this whole idea about that if you are outshining or doing better than someone else in your family, then that's not okay. That's not acceptable. It's not allowable. So those are the different barriers and the reasons why we have these upper limit problems. And they usually show up, like I kind of outlined in that visioning exercise we did at the very beginning. They usually show up when things are going great, almost like when we least expect them. And they're really effective at keeping us in our safety zone, in whatever zone we tend to function in. So if you are, like doing great, like let's say you're going to the gym every day and you're eating great and you're feeling awesome and you're, losing that weight and all of these awesome things are happening in your physical life, in your relationship with your physical body, and then all of a sudden you get sick and then you can't go to the gym and you feel like, like you maybe have sugar cravings or whatever it is. That's a pretty effective way of your kind of inner being, your inner critic, your monkey mind, whatever you want to call it, keeping you safe. And it's ironic because, there's this idea of safety is totally made up. It's not a reality, but it feels like reality very much when you're in it. So what do upper limit problems look like? And I'm going to talk especially about upper limit problems as they surround relationships. So the first one is worry. And I think all of us can can relate to this idea of, when you are, when things are going really great, then all of a sudden you start to have this like nagging little like inner critic kind of tape loop that starts going. That's like, oh, what if he doesn't like me anymore? Or, oh gosh, what if when our families meet, they hate each other and make us miserable for the rest of our lives? Or, oh God, money things, and how do we merge our financial lives, or whatever it is that you tend to worry about, that will start to come up in a really big way. And then the second one is blame and criticism, and I think it's kind of obvious how that might show up, and this was one of my personal favorite go-to upper limit problems, is that I would tend to usually the blame and criticism is directed inward, so I would start to like criticize myself or blame myself for things going wrong, or start to think about all the different things that I should have done differently or whatever. But also a lot of times it can go outward, and that can look like nagging and kind of constantly like blaming things from the past on your partner, or criticizing the way that they do things. Like, they load the dishwasher and you're like, this is a personal one of mine, sorry babe. Like, oh, well, if you just would put this here instead of here, then it'll get washed better, or whatever it is that that your go-to thing is. So there's blame and criticism. The third one is deflection, and that looks like, if you're getting a lot of compliments or a lot of positive feedback on things, especially, early on in relationships, the tendency is to be like, oh no, like, it's, no biggie, or like, just to try to like, don't focus positive energy on me. So that's deflection. Number 4 is arguments. So starting a fight about something, starting an argument over, little things, or sometimes seemingly big things, because that's a really great way to get you back into your safe zone. And then the last one is getting sick or getting injured. And obviously, every time you get sick or injured, it's not necessarily an upper limit problem, but it's worth looking into. And I have written a lot about this on my blog, and so you can check that out there at janakellum.com. But doing body scans, doing any sort of like way of getting in touch with and tuning into a conversation in your body as far as, what might this mean? And that's a really useful tool to really start to understand what these physical messages from our bodies are trying to tell us, because they are actually powerful communicators. We just don't think of them as such. So again, I won't be able to go into depth with that, but you can look at past Hump Day Relation Tips and past blog posts to see more about, especially about getting sick or injured. So just a little side note, it's a really useful exercise to make a list of all of the different ways that upper limit problems show up for you. And that way you can make sure that, as they come up, you recognize them. Like, ooh, there's that upper limit problem coming up. So that's just a little side note. The last thing I want to talk about is what you can actually do about these upper limit problems as they come up. And there's a whole lot of ways that people have come up with to be able to recognize and let go of things. You can, but it really helps to start with just knowing that everyone experiences this stuff. This is not like a uniquely you, like you're the only one who self-sabotages, you're the only one who, like messes things up when they're starting to go great. It's just part of the journey. It's part of being human. And that they will come back up every time you are up-leveling, every time you're getting to a new level of the spiral throughout your entire life. So you might as well make peace with them, because they're going to stick around. They're going to be there. They're just going to show up in slightly different ways, and because of slightly different reasons. But essentially, they are with us for the long haul. So the second thing I would suggest is to really make a commitment to being in the space of And if you are a client of mine or a close friend or family member of mine, you've heard me talking about this a lot lately, being curious. So instead of being like, oh, I gotta figure this out and gosh, and like getting kind of intense about it, you really want to try being open, being curious, being almost playful about what this might mean for you. So you can even use like a commitment statement or a sentence like, I commit to understanding my upper limit problems, or my ULPs, as the Hendricks call them, and to having a good time and being curious while I'm learning about them. So that's a great place to start with that commitment. Also, as you are uncovering these upper limit problems, you will start to notice things like there's a pattern of these upper limit problems. So it becomes easier and easier to understand what they are when they pop up. And you want to, as soon as you start to notice that upper limit problem showing up, make it a habit to shift your attention to what's really going on, what the real issue is, so like let's say you're starting to worry, so then you go, okay, well, I'm worrying a lot, this must be an upper limit problem, and you start to shift to, well, what's the real thing that's going on here? Am I trying to expand in my relationship? Am I trying to have more success in my career? Whatever it is, you want to notice that and make it a habit to shift. So worry, shift. Sick, shift. So that you're always putting your attention on what you're wanting instead of on what you're not wanting. And lastly, make it a habit, make it a pattern to consciously expand your capacity to feel good. Because that's really the kind of crux of this whole thing, is that we have only a certain level. This is the amount of happiness or success or love that I will allow for myself. That's it. And beyond that, it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel okay. But if you are gradually making it a habit, making it an intention, making a commitment to expanding your capacity to feel those ways, then you'll constantly be able to feel better and better and better. And there's a lot of different ways of doing that. One of my favorites is to make self-care and to make treating yourself a priority. Make that it's important to me that I let myself feel good. So maybe that looks like a weekly massage or a monthly massage, or maybe it looks like just going for a walk every morning, or maybe it looks like hiring a what are they called? Like an EFT practitioner, emotional freedom technique. That's the tapping technique, and I can talk more about that in another Hump Day Relation Tip, because that's a very powerful tool in letting go of things that are holding you back. And you can also use, Gay Hendricks has this great success mantra that is, I expand in success, love, and creativity every day as I inspire others to do the same. So I will leave you with that today, and this one definitely went a lot longer than any of my past Hump Day Relation Tips, but I feel like it's a really, really important one and kind of underlies all of the programs and all of the teachings and all the work with clients that I do, and really all of my life. So I hope that that's been useful for you. If you have any questions about this, feel free to put those in the comments or shoot me a private message. And also share this with people that you think it could be useful for as well. So thank you. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'll see you next week for Hump Day Relation Tip number 19. Bye.